My name is Laura Schmidt, and I am doing a multiplication chart. And I wanted to show you some things that I like to think about when I do a multiplication chart. So one thing is that, oh gosh, it went straight for the large screen, and now I can't see. Hold on, gotta adjust that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have 1 to 15 down both sides, and directly in the middle is 81. Halfway between 225 and 1, we get 81. I think it's halfway. It's 9 times 9. Technically halfway is like 10 times 10, which is 100. But that wouldn't be halfway because 225 is more than 100 times 2. So, halfway is a little bit less than that, and I think it's 81. But if we do that, we get a scene of square roots. If we make a multiplication chart, we can see all the square roots of all of these numbers, all the beginning numbers. And I just think it's interesting. Okay. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared 16. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. 10 squared is 100. 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144, and 13 squared is 169, and 14 squared is 196, which I think is an interesting number. 14 squared, just think about that. 14 squared. And then 15 squared is 225. Very practical, very straightforward. So I just think that these numbers have significance throughout history. I'm not really sure what significance. I like to read my Bible. Oh, you're sitting on it. Anyway, I like to read my Bible, and some numbers that are important in that are the 14 is 7 times 2. And 7 is an important number in the Bible. It's a very important number in the Bible. They mention it so many times. There's also 15 is one of them. One of those important numbers. I'm not sure why. 3, the Trinity is 3. 3 in 1 is what they say. So if you go 3 times 9, and then you go minus that would be the 4, and then the 1. So 3 going back into itself is 9, 4, and 1. And I just think that's an interesting way to look at it. It's not necessarily the best phrasing, but it's an interesting way to look at it. 9, 4, and 1. He says something in the Bible about the 4 corners of wind being released at the end of time or something like that. And I don't know what that means. But that is right in the middle of this square of 9, 4, and 1. Being the square root of the square of 3 times 3. 4 is right in the middle. It's like, I don't know where that would be exactly in geometry, but it's somewhere relevant, I think, to something. But then if you go to 14 times 14 squared is 169. And there's a 6, and there's a 9, which is the opposite of a 6. So what does that mean, and it's over 100. If you think about the number 666, that's like 6 times 10 times 100, or no, not times 100, that'd be 1,000. 6 times 10 times 10. So that's 3 numbers. That's the 1 itself, and that's 2 opposite of that. It's like 6, 10, and 10. You multiply by 10, and then you multiply by 10 again to get that big number. Okay, you go to the next number is in the tens place. This is how English people perceive it. I'm not sure this is how Hebrew people do, and they could have a better understanding of this than me, but the 6 is in the tens place according to me. It's like 6 times 10. That's just 2 numbers, 6 and 1. And then there's just one number, which is the 6. So it's like the 1 is separated in the large number. And Hebrew people, they read from this way to this way. They read from my screen flips, doesn't it? They read from right to left, not left to right like we do in America. They read from right to left. And so they would see the single number first. Then they would understand the times 10. And then they would understand the 2 and the 1. So the 1 is separated, and then there's 2 more. So I'm not sure what that means, but it probably means something. So let's talk about 4s, because those 4 corners. Okay, what's on the 4 corners of this? 1, 15, 15, and 225. That's very straightforward, very practical. It's just 1, 15, and 225. Only 3 numbers for 4 corners. Then there's 4 squared is 4 times itself is 16. Let's talk about 6. 6 times itself is 36. We're not even talking to the power of, and I think that they may have been talking about something else, but like one thing you could take it as is 6 to the power of 3. So what would that be? It would be 6 times 6, 36, and 36 times 6 is 12 and 18, 19, 196, which would be the 14 times 14, 196. And then yeah, 196, huh? That's 14 times 14. But anyway, there is a Bible verse that talks about like Lemuel. He wasn't the King Lemuel, he was just Lemuel back in the day, and he killed someone. He killed lots of people. And he's like, if Cain was to be forgiven 7 times, then I should be forgiven 777 times 7. And he may have been talking 7 to the power of 3, because 3 is the Trinity, and then 7 is the number that he's referring to, and 7 in the Bible means something with perfection. So this this Antichrist thinks he's perfect because he's 196. Something like that. I don't know. Because he's 14 squared. He like knows 14 squared really well. I don't know. I don't know what that means. But it's just, I like to put things out of context sometimes and make it more interesting so I can remember it. That's how I remember a lot of these numbers, is taking it out of context and putting it into a different context. And in this case, it's referring to numbers in the Bible, so it's not necessarily how it should be applied. Like in America, we usually think about numbers as going from 1 to 10. We learn 1 to 10 at first, and that I think is a really good way to learn it. But if you like learn to a different number, if you try to strive for more, like 12 to 15, that could be a whole lot better to teach, because it's striving for more. It's trying to achieve more and telling yourself that you can achieve more than just counting to 10. You don't have to tell someone that it's like that's where you stop, because they want to keep going anyway, don't they? So you gotta tell them to like strive for more. Oh my goodness. But anyway, what comes after the 196 is the 225, which is 15 squared. So 15 is like the number in my mind of being like eating. Five means eating, because God told the Israelites not to eat of the fruit of the tree of the land of Canaan. I think it was Canaan, of the land they went to, until the 5th year. So there's like 6 days in a week, but they're starting to eat stuff on the 5th, like on the 5th day. They're starting to eat stuff on the 5th day. That's how I put it out of context and put it into another context. So it's like the 6, they have eaten and they're full. Like the dragon ate or something, and he's full now, and he thinks he's got everything, and he thinks he's satisfied, because on the 5th day he started eating. On the 4th day he's like, I need to get something to eat or something. He's like hunting on the 4th day. He's hunting. On the 5th day he's like eating. On the 6th day he's full. On the 7th day, I think he's starting to get hungry again. He's thinking about it, but he's like at that plateau. He's at that perfect state where he's not in need of anything. He's not feeling full, like on the 6th day, and he thinks nothing will happen. On the 7th day, I think nothing will happen. But the 8th day, 8 is a number I didn't talk about. 8 means something. Now, this is weird, because Taylor Swift did something with the number 8 and 13. She likes the number 8 and 13. Now 13 is the stars that David saw in his dream. He saw 13 stars, and that was like 13 of something, and a lot of people have a lot of sermons about that. But I think it was referring to groups of people. 13 was, and 13 squared I misaligned this. That's the 169. 14 squared is 196, and 13 squared is 169. So he had some issues, and I have theories about some of his issues. But he was told by God to go and go to war the rest of his life because of what he did in killing his neighbor, killing his neighbor for his wife. So he was sentenced by God to kill people the rest of his life. That was God's judgment on him because he was the leader, and he probably didn't want to do that. He probably was not happy about that. And he cried a lot. The Bible said he cried a lot. He talks about wetting his pillow with his tears, and he wakes up in the morning and his head aches and his heart is sore. I think he had something. I think he was sick with something. And sickness, I think that has to do with the 13 times 13. Something about the sickness is with those numbers. But these are just my theories. I think it's interesting to think about. You don't necessarily have to apply anything I say, but it's just, I like to think of this. Anyway, you take care. Bye.